This edition of CropLife Retail Week is brought to you by the Tech Hub Live Conference and Expo, July 20th and 21st at the Iowa Events Center in Des Moines. For full information, visit techhublive.com. Well, hello again. Welcome to another edition of CropLife Retail Week. And nobody is in their undisclosed locations today, right?
No, Paul, actually, this was, I guess, what you'd call a soft reopening of our offices. Everybody in our department was in today because a few of us had to move around our office stuff to new locations. So that took up an inordinate amount of time for those of us who insist on putting name badges on their wall as decoration. So 20 some years of name badges. It did take me a good hour and a half to put everything back up once I took it down. So, we are in a disclosed location. And actually, if all goes well, fingers crossed, this time next week when we record the video, we will actually be for the first time in 16, 17 months in studio recording it with you and I actually in the same room. What a concept that will be.
Well, the thing is, we could have done it today, but, we saw each other and it was just such a shock. We decided it was just a little too soon. So we're about, 30 feet apart right now in separate.
They're about. And the funny thing, of course, is before our video, you called me on my cell phone to ask me when we're doing the video and how we're doing it, which I'm like, you could have just popped your head out of the office and said something. I would have heard you, but hey, I know the last many months when you've needed me, you've had to call. So
I might see people and I'm not ready for that yet. So anyway. So there's, I guess the big news of the week that we both became aware of at the same ungodly hour on Monday, I believe, was CNH acquiring for a stock price the assets of Raven Industries and bringing Raven on board. And boy, it's certainly not surprising when you look back at at the CNH in Case's history. Most of the stuff that they did in the precision technology side was with partners. I mean, they used Ag Leader and Trimble extensively, dating back to 1997, and used that as part of their kind of equipment mix to get them in the technology realm and use that expertise for a long period of time before severing those ties. But this really gives them access to technology, to relationships, to obviously autonomy and everything that's going on with Raven's OmniDrive. As Raven's kind of digested all those different technologies, there's the Slingshot, the Slingshot application and technology that Raven has that gives them access to the field and field computers and data exchange. So there's a lot of clear advantages and certainly it launches CNH potentially into a whole other realm in terms of what they can offer. The Deere has really taken some, with my John Deere and everything they've been doing, is taken huge leaps forward in that interactive ability with farmers. Case, and Brian, an effort to get there as well and to get all this autonomy technology under their auspices here. They've taken a pretty significant leap, and it'll be interesting to see how they integrate.
Yeah, actually, as you were mentioning, Paul, the release did come in the morning. I'm looking at a printout of the release here on my desk. I'm getting ready to read from, and it actually says Monday, June 21st at 1:31 a.m. So, yes, it was an early morning ding of the phone, and suffice to say, I had a little trouble falling back to sleep after reading this because, wow, I thought this was very, very big news. But yeah, as you said, Paul, Scott Wine, who was, I guess, the CEO at CNH Industrial, said in the release that this acquisition emphasizes our commitment to enhance our precision farming portfolio and aligns with our digital transformation strategy. So again, and of course, this company owns a lot of the self-propelled sprayer companies that we know and love. New Holland and Miller, and of course, Case IH are all in their family of products. So it'll be very interesting to see what kind of, actually, I guess they had a call post press release that I guess you sat in on. Was there any news you have to share from that that might not have been in the press release most people have probably seen by now?
There wasn't a lot new discussed. I think the idea that it was a multiple month long bidding process. So it sounds like it's been Raven's been in play for a bit, from what I understood. As they said, they were very proud of having achieved this and won and gotten this under the belt. So I don't know who else would have been. You can guess who else might have been in the running, but that was kind of interesting. But beyond that, it really is just about how all this is going to integrate and really gives them a boost on the technology side that they didn't have before, more under their control rather than just being a partner with another company.
Yeah, I know, Paul. I usually attend the Maggie show when it's held, and I know in the past couple of years, I mean, at the John Deere booth, I've seen Raven kind of co-exhibiting with them at that event. I know they've also co-exhibited with the AGCO folks at their tent, but I suspect this year that it's going to be at the Jenner Ag Case IH booth that I will find the Raven representatives and products well represented, of course.
Sure. I guess the only other thing is it'd be interesting to see how the relationships Raven has had traditionally with companies that would be considered competitors. Case how all those relationships play out, because there is Raven equipment controllers and things like that in other equipment. Can't speculate at all. I think they'll say right now that they expect those relationships to continue, but who knows what the future holds on that front, and is yet to be seen, and would be speculative to say anything otherwise. So,
well, I was going to say, just to do a shameless plug, I mean, if folks are really interested to find out a little bit more for themselves and in an in-person environment, the Raven will be one of the exhibitors at the Tech Hub Live event we have coming up here towards the end of July. So, if you really want to get some maybe inside scoop from the Raven folks themselves, to quote the Raven, evermore, I guess. Sorry, my Edgar Allan Poe is showing. Maybe you could swing by Des Moines, Iowa, and join us for Tech Hub Live.
Well, that and many other reasons, we'd love to see you out at Tech Hub, but certainly that that's going to be I think a point of conversation. And again, that whole idea of Raven partners and where they're headed. And please, no more puns.
Okay. All right. Well, then I'll dive into the next segment, your favorite, of course, Paul. It is time for Fun with Numbers.
Yay.
The enthusiasm is overwhelming.
All
so,
right.
Paul, this week's one should not be that tough. Actually, the number is pretty easy. It's a round number, 100. And the clue would be two names representing one company. So what would your guess be what 100 could be representing in this week's video for Fun with Numbers?
So it's not Oscar Mayer, right?
It is not Oscar Mayer, although those of us who grew up in the 70s certainly remember the jingle.
It's not Or Ida.
No, not that one.
Tater Tots. All right, then it's probably Wilbur-Ellis.
Yay! Absolutely, Paul. It indeed is Wilbur-Ellis. The 100 represents the company's 100th anniversary, which they are celebrating next week in California. And actually, they'll be introducing some initiatives going forward as well to help celebrate the 100th year of the company that was founded back in 1921. And actually, I had an opportunity earlier this week to catch up with the president and CEO, John Buckley. And here's a little bit about what he had to say regarding the 100th anniversary celebration. Hello, this is Eric Sfiligoj with CropLife magazine. I'm here today on video with John Buckley, who is the CEO at Wilbur-Ellis. For those of you who might not know, Wilbur-Ellis here in 2021 is celebrating its 100th anniversary. And if John's shirt wasn't the clue to that, I've pointed it out now so you can see for yourself. John, welcome to CropLife Retail Week. We appreciate having you here.
Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it. Good to see you.
All right, very good. Well, obviously, 100 years of history is a very, very long time in this day and age. And you could probably hit me with volumes of information regarding the company Wilbur-Ellis and how it got between 1921 and 2021. But if I actually kind of distill the company's history down into just a single word, what would you say is the best word to describe Wilbur-Ellis today at 100 years old? And why is that the best word to use?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. And of course, difficult to do. 100 years of history to distill into one word, but I'll take my best shot at it. You know, and we've celebrated the 100th anniversary this past year and done a lot of things during that year to understand the history and lessons learned from that history about the company. And so thinking about that and your question, I think what comes to mind is integrity. And in a couple of senses, I think that makes sense. And back in our history, you know, integrity, certainly at its root, it's about, you know, can I count on you? Can I trust you? And the trust in that you'll do the right thing. But in many ways, when we think about doing business with our customers, that integrity comes into play. And I think the reputation of Wilbur-Ellis comes into play in the sense of, can I trust you to do what you say you're going to do for me? And as we look back over our history, there are many, many deals in the history of Wilbur-Ellis that were done on a handshake, you know, based on no contracts, you know, maybe a telex or something back in the day, or a telegram even, but really done on the character of the individuals doing the business, and the ownership and the family ownership supported those decisions. And acted and continues to act with integrity. But I think also there's another piece of integrity that maybe we don't think as much about, but it's competence, right? So not only do I trust you that you intend to do what you say you're going to do, but are you able? Can I rely on you to deliver the value that, you know, that you say you're going to bring? And I think that Wilbur-Ellis has delivered on that time and time again, and will continue to deliver on that with our customers for the next 100 years.
Very good. Yeah, I know. It's funny you mentioned that, because I know the one characteristic I would say, you know, in my 20 some years of covering the ag retail marketplaces, I'm surprised at how much a handshake actually, how much weight that carries with, you know, the ag retailers and their grower customers. So the fact that Wilbur-Ellis has very much operated that way over 100 years as well, I think that speaks volumes to, you know, like you say, the customer-client relationship.
Yeah, and it's part of how you last 100 years, because not a lot of companies do.
Yeah, very good. So that's what John Buckley had to say regarding Wilbur-Ellis's 100th celebration. And if you are interested in the entire interview, we put a link here in the video to that, which should be up on our CropLife website here in the next week or so. And you can check out all the things that John and I talked about regarding the company's legacy and hopefully its path forward for the next 100 years as well. So again, our congratulations to our friends at Wilbur-Ellis on 100 years young.
You bet. I mean, it's impressive to be able to maintain a company with a family name in the family, and you know, it's mind-boggling in today's world that you're able to do that. But congratulations to them, and all the best in the future.
Yep. So that's all I have for us this week, Paul, unless you got anything else to add. So
I do not, but we appreciate you joining us this week. Rumor has it, as Eric says, that we may be in the studio next week. We may be together for the first time. There may be a fist fight. I don't know. We'll have to see. We haven't done fun with numbers in person. I haven't been able to exercise my frustration with him in an in-person setting. So
yeah, I may have to rethink fun with numbers next week if you're sitting there right next to me, because if you miss it and I laugh out loud, you might smack me. So that might, Chris, that might be what the viewers want. Who knows?
Yeah, well, you know, it could be. That's all right. Well, that's it for this edition of CropLife Retail Week. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
If you have questions or comments about today's episode of Retail Week, contact us by email or Twitter, or type your message in the comment section below.
Your feedback is important to us. We'll try our best to address your thoughts in next week's episode.
And be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel.